As the world marks the 30th anniversary of the Fourth World Conference on Women in Beijing, China once again hosts a global leaders meeting on women's development, demonstrating its strong commitment to advancing women's empowerment.
It's incredibly timely. It is more than just about women. It is about how communities and countries can accelerate and grow.
She says China has set a global example through concrete action to promote gender equality.
China matters greatly in terms of moving the global percentage points in gender equality.
At a time when the world needs greater resolve and wisdom to address challenges facing women, she notes that China has continued to take action.
We have seen an increase in the investment in South-South by China around knowledge and innovation, grassroots support to fold in a focus on gender equality and women's empowerment.
An exclusive interview with Christine Arab, UN Women Regional Director for Asia and the Pacific, on Leaders Talk.
Hello and welcome to Leaders Talk, where we meet leaders, thinkers, and trailblazers. I'm So Yin. Our guest today is Ms. Christine Arab, Regional Director of UN Women for Asia and the Pacific. Earlier this week, the Global Leaders Meeting on Women successfully wrapped up here in Beijing, once again underscoring China's very strong commitment to gender equality as well as women's empowerment. Amid global growing conflicts and climate changes, how far are we from true gender equality? And how does she view China's progress as well as contribution to this global cause? Here is our conversation. Ms. Arab, thank you for joining us on Leaders Talk. And let's start with the major event, which is the Global Leaders Meeting on Women. Chinese President Xi is going to attend the opening ceremony and deliver the keynote speech. So how do you understand the significance of this meeting?
It's an exciting time for the government of China to host such an event, to bring leaders from across the world, all regions, to discuss what a pivotal, crucial issue gender equality is. 30 years on since the Fourth World Conference on Women was held in Beijing. The fact that the President of China will be there, will be opening, shows the importance that the government of China gives to the issue, but also highlights that it is more than just about women. It is about how communities and countries can accelerate and grow. We are 5 years before the 2030 Agenda and Sustainable Development Goals are meant to be achieved, and none of the goals relating to gender equality are on track globally. So for the government of China to hold an event for global leaders to discuss what's worked, to share what's worked, and then to learn from each other on how to tackle the gaps, it's incredibly timely and also very exciting to be here for me personally.
5 years ago, President Xi Jinping proposed holding a global leaders meeting on women in 2025. This autumn, that vision has become reality. On October 13th, President Xi attended the opening ceremony in Beijing and delivered a keynote address, his first appearance at such a global gathering in a decade. Leaders and representatives from around the world, heads of state and government, parliament leaders, vice prime ministers, ministers, heads of international organizations, and friends of China gathered in Beijing to chart the future of women's development worldwide. Once again, Beijing stands witness to a new milestone in the global advancement of women's causes. Looking back to the 1995 Fourth World Conference on Women held in Beijing, China has, over the past 3 decades, stayed true to its original commitment and made steady progress in advancing women's rights and opportunities. In the new era, China has opened broader paths for women's empowerment. 690 million women have shared in building a moderately prosperous society. Women now account for 45.8% of China's scientific workforce, over half of the nation's internet entrepreneurs are women, and women's average life expectancy has surpassed 80 years. China has also been recognized by the World Health Organization as one of the world's top 10 high-performing countries in maternal and child health.
Speaking of women's cause here in China, China has always been a very strong supporter and advocate for the development and empowerment of women. So, Ms. Arab, how would you evaluate the achievements made by China on gender equality and women's empowerment, and which accomplishments stand out the most to you?
I know too often when we talk about China, we talk about the population, but in this instance, it matters greatly in terms of moving the global percentage points in gender equality. I think almost 1 in 5 women worldwide are in China. We have seen incredible advancements in the workforce. I think around 55% of entrepreneurs in the internet in China are women entrepreneurs. We've seen important drops in maternal mortality, and as you mentioned, almost full gender parity in all levels of education between boys and girls, and I think probably at the graduate level, girls are starting to outstrip boys in terms of graduate level degrees. I think 36% of those graduates from engineering are women in China, which is really impressive. Engineering tends to be a very, very male-dominated area. And we've seen enhanced legislation to promote women's access to a multitude of areas, as well as enhanced legislation almost a decade old to combat domestic violence and recognition of this. The Supreme People's Court taking on standards and approaches to ensure the implementation of the laws. It's incredibly important. Women-led private sector, they are some of the leaders in the region. They're mentoring companies and young women outside of China as well to learn how to innovate and how to be a leader in their different private sector areas of work. It's extremely impressive. I also have a deep respect for the fact that there's been a lot of discussion about what more needs to be done. Recently at the UN General Assembly, the government of China committed to the Beijing +30 action agenda, which highlights specific components of the Platform for Action. China was one of the first countries to come forward and say, well, we're going to do X, Y, and Z in the coming years to realize the action agenda. And that's influential, and it matters in the region. It gives, again, a form of south-south, north-south, all exchanges. This is what we want to see.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there to see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
Ms. Arab, you have extensive working experience in different parts of the world, now in Asia Pacific and before in Arab states and Caribbean, etc. What are some of the most distinctive features of China's development in women that you believe are very impressive?
I think it is the boldness of the innovation and then scaling it so rapidly. I fully understand in a country of this size, when the government rolls out new concepts, they have to roll it out for the full community. And they have innovated a great deal when it comes to digitalization, AI, how to get women into protected jobs, how to raise awareness about the care economy and the opportunities within the care economy, and how to bring the private sector to the table as a key player in that. I don't, and UN Women doesn't get a sense that China has a sense of reaching exactly where it wants to be. It's got a plan, it's working on that plan, and it's moving forward. It's not complacent. We want to see that continue.
And Chinese President Xi also attaches great importance to women's cause in the past years, and he once emphasized that the protection of women's rights and interests must become a commitment on the national level. And China now has implemented a comprehensive legal system with over 100 laws protects the rights and interests of women. So, Ms. Arab, how do you understand the significance of China's top leadership's emphasis on gender equality in driving women's development?
Political will is everything. When we can pinpoint exactly where gains have been made on the planet to that level of political will, there's no question that the women's rights holders and voices in China have played pivotal roles in working with the government and understanding what needs to happen. But it takes the leaders of governments to make those changes and to enforce those changes. And we see the difference in the countries where the leaders don't have that commitment. Then we can have pockets of gain at the local level, but not nationwide. And it is crucial. Globally, China is one of UN Women's top 25 financial supporters, and has consistently been there since our establishment 15 years ago.
Today, amid global uncertainty and challenges, advancing the cause of women remains a daunting task. According to UN Women, over 600 million women and girls live in conflict-affected areas. 2 billion lack access to social protection, and nearly 1 in 10 still live in extreme poverty. In the face of these challenges, China, a steadfast supporter and advocate of women's empowerment, continues to inject positive energy into global sustainable development through initiatives such as the Belt and Road Initiative and South-South cooperation. China has trained over 200,000 women professionals from more than 180 countries and regions, dispatched medical teams to 48 African nations, donated $20 million to UN Women over the past decade, and implemented women's empowerment projects worth over $40 million in more than 20 countries. To further advance global women's development, President Xi Jinping proposed 4 key initiatives at the meeting: to foster an enabling environment for women's growth and advancement, to cultivate strong momentum for high-quality development of women's causes, to build a sound governance framework to safeguard women's rights and interests, and to open a new chapter of global cooperation on women's development. President Xi also announced that in the next 5 years, China will donate an additional $10 million to UN Women, provide $100 million to the Global Development and South-South Cooperation Fund to support projects benefiting women and girls, and launch 1,000 small yet beautiful livelihood projects with women and girls as priority beneficiaries.
China has been a very active advocate for women's cause on the global stage. How do you view the contribution of China in advancing women's development globally?
Increasingly in the last decade, we have seen an increase in the investment in South-South by China around knowledge and innovation, grassroots support to fold in a focus on gender equality and women's empowerment. The government of China's emphasis on South-South has been extremely strategic. I think that China's emphasis on South-South partnership, its emphasis on sharing what has worked and talking about what isn't working, it's important because of the fact that it is one of the leading global partners for most countries. Bringing women's issues and gender equality to the table over the last decade. It's been a very important and much needed gap. We have a number of development partners worldwide. A small number of them make sure that gender equality is central to their investments on their development relationship with governments, with the UN, with international organizations as a whole, with grassroots organizations. And China is part of that group, and we like to see that grow and enhance. Because of the network of partners that China has worldwide, there's a lot of lessons to be learned there.
Gender equality and women's empowerment are an important part of UN's 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And as you also said, that now there are only 5 years to achieve this goal, but no single target on gender equality is on track. Why? What are the major hurdles to achieve this goal?
We see through the national reports of all the governments of the world, 30 years on, they're still achieving and there's still gains. But over 24% of the governments who submitted reports reported facing backlash to the agenda. So if you look at where we've progressed, as I said, we have improved legislation on preventing legal discrimination against women. We have significantly improved legislation in many countries on tackling violence against women and girls and the provision of services. We have really improved parity of education at all levels. China, of course, has done this better than most, including within STEM, which is crucial. But the systems that we live through, the systems we all experience, be it at the community level, in school, or once we get into jobs, they discriminate, default discriminate. They will embed assumptions, they will embed stereotypes when it comes to mobilizing more women in the workforce in any region of the world. The systems make assumptions about the types of jobs that are appropriate for women or that women would like, as opposed to what the market is offering in my community, and therefore ensuring that myself and my brother have equal access to those education opportunities and job opportunities. And where you see a serious game changer in poverty reduction is when governments have taken that gender lens very seriously.
You're watching breaking news on CGTN. CGTN with the latest market-moving headlines from around the world. Welcome to the world today on CGTN.
Again, he can hold the gun. He can compliment the words protesters.
Were you worried about your life at that particular time?
Not at all.
What is your assessment of the state of the continent today?
Africa has the potential to power itself.
You have once noted, and I quote here, that there's a perception that while women can help when it comes to education and healthcare, but on serious issues, in quotation marks, we need a man because they have the strength. And changing those perceptions is crucial. What could be the steps, Ms. Arab, to change and to correct such narratives?
Education, both formal and informal. Often our assumptions are not grounded in statistics. They are grounded in what we see every day. And that's why the role of women in leadership in all its forms, teachers, principals, the head of the hospital, the head of the school board, it doesn't matter. That's what changes the understanding of what a leader looks like and what a leader can be. And you see some incredibly impressive examples in China where both in STEM, especially around technology and engineering, you're seeing so many private companies, women-led, who are innovating and also trying to bring along young women and young men to understand that there's a lot of diversity in the way that women and men lead and equal benefit to both. So, in the simplest of terms, we don't need to create role models. The role models are there, and they've been there for some time. We need to educate on what that is.
Just as the Chinese old saying goes, women hold up half the sky, and that means men will be holding up the other sky, right?
That's right.
That's the ideal.
That's the ideal. Together.
How would you describe this collaboration between China and UN Women, and which areas in particular do you see even closer cooperation in the future?
One of the most interesting parts of our partnership in China as UN Women, and this work is done under the UN cooperation framework and also aligns with the 15th five-year plan of the government of China, is working on the care economy. You see at the city and town level some innovation on caring cities that, for example, UNICEF is doing, that we're learning from as UN Women and trying to replicate across the region. We work from women's economic empowerment, both women entrepreneurs and the green transition.
Thank you so much for sharing this, your very insightful views. Ms. Arab, greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much for having me and for having UN Women and for highlighting the importance of these issues right now. Thank you.
Thank you. During the interview, Ms. Arab praised China's progress in advancing gender equality as well as women's empowerment. And during the meeting, we also interviewed some other leaders who came to Beijing for this meeting. And the guests that we talked to spoke highly of the 4 proposals made by President Xi in advancing women's cause globally and the good example set by China in accelerating women's development both domestically as well as internationally.
President Xi was very sincere in what he said and very strong in his commitments. So I think that's very useful and very significant at this moment. And it sends a very clear and strong message to the rest of the world.
I want to commend President Xi for championing the cause of women and calling this Global Women Leaders Conference on Women to review the progress that has been made in respect of women across the world. President Xi gave the keynotes, and so I think that he prepared the grounds for the discussions that took place.
To hear the President of the People's Republic of China recommit, and not only recommit in words, but recommit resources to ensuring gender equality across the world. The call for heads of states and governments to take on that responsibility and really put words into action and put resources where it is required is what really stuck with me.
President Xi Jinping putting out not just a bold statement but bold commitments to gender equality. Having a male president of a superpower like China stand up and say this is an agenda that matters to us and we need to rejuvenate the agenda we agreed on 30 years ago and come together around gender equality in general, women in leadership and women's rights, and I think it's very timely and important.